They call it the Silver Tsunami. Basically, we have an estimated 32 million homes owned by baby boomers that will hit the housing market over the next couple decades. And this flood of inventory, some say, will crash the housing market and crash home prices. And that's what we're looking at today. We're looking at what's really happening with this Silver Tsunami, because I think there are several key factors that a lot of people are ignoring. And the situation is probably a lot more dire than most people want to admit. And that is, again, that's what we're looking at today on the Housing Nerd. So welcome to the live. I thought it made sense to jump on and review some of this data that I pulled this morning. And it's quite frankly shocking when you see some of this. So welcome. If you are new to my channel, my name is Jason Ferrier. I am the Housing Nerd, and I've been a realtor and investor in Central Ohio for about 8 years now. And my channel is all about real data, not the hype. I don't care if you buy a home. I don't care if you invest in real estate. I'm not going to tell you to run out and buy a home and that now has never been the better time than ever to buy a home, however they want to say it. I'm not going to tell you to stay away from the housing market either, and that it's never been so toxic and you should just wait another year to buy a house. I'm going to give you the data, let you make your own decisions, and hopefully you learn something on today's video, and hopefully I do too. So welcome again. All right, now let's get to some crazy stats about boomers and housing. So according to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, it's an estimated 32 million homes that baby boomers currently own. And it's around 40%, 37 to 41% of the housing stock out there. So you take all the homes in the U.S. and you look at the percentage that baby boomers own right now, it's about 37 to 41% of all homes. That's a lot. Millennials, on the other hand, own 21% of all the housing stock out there. So far behind the baby boomers. And I think that's what causes a lot of younger buyers, rightly so, to be upset that, hey, all these boomers own homes, I don't, and they're hoarding them. A lot of people say, well, hey, they're hoarding these homes. Again, today on today's live, I want to know what you think about all this Silver Tsunami, baby boomer stuff. And if you're joining us, do me a favor and hit the like button. Don't be a freeloader. All I ask is that you hit the like button. So you've got millennials basically not locked out of the housing market, Gen Z locked out of the housing market. You got boomers are in control of the majority of the housing stock. And a lot of these boomers own multiple homes, right? So you've got folks that, may own vacation homes. These folks may also own rental properties. A lot of mom and pop landlords are now baby boomers. In fact, most of the big mom and pop landlords that I know are boomers or older. And they own, some of them own 5 houses, some own 50. I know some that own 500. So I don't know if they're small or not, but they're not institutional landlords, that's for sure. But in any case, a lot of the boomers own a lot of rental properties and a lot of single family homes. And so I think a lot of people are upset about that. They feel like it's not fair. They feel like the boomers had it easier. Comment and tell me if that's you. You may be thinking that too. That, hey, I'm locked out of the housing market while all these folks have all the homes. And it's common. It's a common comment that I get on my channel. I see it in the viewer comments. I also see it on the lives. And then I talk to people face to face and they say, man, when these boomers finally pass away, I'll be able to finally find a home. There'll be enough homes for everybody. And I think that's the concept, right? Like, as these folks pass on and age out, downsize, whatever you want to call it, they're going to leave the homes behind. In fact, according to the data I pulled, it was 70, I think it was from Charles Schwab, if I remember right. It was 70% of all homes that are inherited are sold. So, like, if a boomer passes away or anybody passes away and they leave a home to their kids, the kids, for instance, will sell the home 70% of the time. So, most of the time, they're getting rid of the house. And we'll talk about that later at the end of this. But, and so you've got a lot of people getting older who own a lot of houses. They're passing away. And then the younger folks get their hands on the homes and they're like, you know what? We've got 3 or 4 people involved in this, 3 or 4 kids, whatever. Instead of trying to rent it out or keep it, we're just going to sell the thing and divide up the proceeds and move on. And so you're seeing that. I would think there's a lot of that happening right now. So to put it into context, this flood of inventory from boomers, I looked up some of the projections. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are saying 9.2 million homes between 2024 and 2035 will hit the housing market from the Silver Tsunami. Specifically, in year 2035, they're saying it'll be 1.2 million homes a year by then. So it kind of starts slow as a trickle, maybe as a silver, I don't know, ripple. And then it ramps up into a wave, right? And if you think about it, we have 1.2 million homes on the market right now, according to Redfin. So you've got 1.2 million homes on the market today, but the data suggests there could be 1.2 million homes hitting the market every year by the year 2035. That's a lot, right? That would cause, obviously, if that happened and they were homes people could actually buy and move into, you got to think that that would cause price decline, right? A flood of inventory like that. And as everybody, I think, believes, we have a lot of vacant homes, right? We've got like 15 million vacant homes by some housing experts. A lot of those vacant homes owned by boomers, and a lot of the homes that that they're selling through passing away are certainly vacant, and so they have a big portion of that vacant inventory. And then we're building a lot of homes, right? I don't know that we're building a lot of homes, but people think we have way too much new construction. Like, we don't need any homes at all really to be built. And that the narrative that we have a housing shortage is false. And if just the boomers would give up their homes, we'd have some. It's kind of like the reverse of Scooby-Doo, right? At the end of Scooby-Doo, there used to be the old guy saying, I would have been successful. It wasn't for those meddling kids. Now it's like the kids saying, I would have been successful if it wasn't for the old people. So anyway, I'm curious to hear what you think about the Silver Tsunami. Will we see this flood of homes? Maybe you're seeing a lot of boomer homes in your neighborhood. I don't know. It's something that's all over the news right now, right? It just is. Like, I pulled this article from Zillow. It's a couple years old. Actually, it's a few years old, 2019. But I thought the headline was interesting. Over the next 20 years, more than a quarter, 27.4% of the nation's currently owner-occupied homes are likely to hit the market. It's almost, they could have said almost a third, right? Nearly a third of all these homes out there are going to hit the market. Owner-occupied, they're saying. You got to think about how many homes do they have? How many homes do boomers have that are rentals? A lot, right? I'm an investor. I'm a realtor, and I list homes a lot for folks that are boomers. I list homes, or I buy homes as investments that are or were owned by boomers. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, because I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes of this in a minute. I think it's going to shock you. Let me just look at a couple comments here. One home per person until everyone can purchase an affordable one. Vape King, what's up? Yeah, I know a lot of people want that. They want one home per person, but let's be real, right? Like, do you think that the government is going to regulate how many homes people have? I don't think they're going to do that, nor do I think they should. I mean, I don't know your situation, Vape King, but like if you were someone who inherited a house from an elderly parent or a relative, and that relative, wasn't like a mogul of real estate, and they gave you the house when they pass away, why, nobody has the right to tell you to sell the house. You have a right to do anything you want with it. It's your house. Got to pay property taxes, obviously. So I guess the government can kick you out if you don't pay property taxes, but that's another story. So I don't know, man. It's a tricky situation. Yes, so they can split the money. Sell it? Yeah. Stunfish, what's up? Looking at boomers, they were taught that houses are investments. So buy multiple homes as investments is what they did. Houses for the newer generations aren't really thought of as an investment. So I know a lot of boomers that don't think of homes as investments. Like, I don't know. Being in real estate, like, there are boomers that think that, but there are millennials that think that. There's Gen Z that thinks that, Gen X that thinks that. I understand your point, though. So you don't think newer generations really thought, or you don't think newer generations really think that homes are investments? Is that what you're saying? They like Bitcoin, right? I get it. Or something else. By the way, hello to you, sir. Thanks for joining. What's up, YouTube? All homes are an investment. All homes are an investment. They can be, yeah. I mean, I guess some are better than others at being investments. What's up, Stumpfish again? A lot of this younger generation think that life experience is an investment. I agree with both. However, when you're younger, you can't do both. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this thing, because this, to me, is shocking. Are you ready? Here's the part of the Silver Tsunami, I think, though, that everybody is ignoring. The flood of the homes that are going to hit the market are not move-in ready 2020 built homes on a corner lot in the perfect school system with nothing to do but move right into the house. Most of the homes are 50, 60, 70, yes, even 100-year-old money pits. And I hear no one talking about this. I don't hear Melody Wright talking about it. I don't hear Real Estate Mindset talking about it. I don't hear Adam Taggart talking about this. I don't hear Danielle DiMartino Booth talking about this. No one will talk about this point here. And it's inconvenient. Or it's possible that they're not actually in the game. They actually are not touching the inventory. They're not walking through the inventory. They're definitely not swinging a hammer. They're definitely not swinging a hammer. And they're not being realistic with themselves either. So, if you look at the United States housing inventory we currently have, I mean, you should sit down for this. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, you can look up this data yourself. 50% of all homes in the U.S. were built before 1979. 16% were built before 1949. How many homes were built after 2020? Just 2.9% of all existing homes. So when I look at this, you can see here, 30, let me start at the, yeah, I'll start right here. So when I look at these graphs I created using census data, and I did this looking at the United States. I wanted to see California, just a few different states. So I did the country. I did California, Florida, New York, Ohio, and Tennessee. And some of this stuff is like, what? Come again? So if I look at the year 2020 and later, 2.9% of all homes. That's what that stock represents. Think about that for a second. If you're a millennial or particularly a Gen Z buyer, right? Like you could be just like of home buying age over the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, even with the people would say the overbuilding of the U.S. housing market, some people still think that. Maybe you'll change your mind after you see this data. 2.9% of all the housing stock was built after 2020. That's it. That's it. The year 2000 through 2019, 24% of all the stock was built. 1980 through 1999, 25% of the housing stock. It's getting bigger. 1950 through 1979, 33% of all the homes were built. And 1949 and earlier, 16%. I think the number under 1939 is about 8%. Now, it varies by state, certainly, right? Some states like, well, we'll look right here. In California, for instance, their biggest slice of that pie, 41% built through 1950 through 1979. You can see if I, whoops. In Florida, 29% built from 1950 through 1979. New York, 36% between 1950 and 1979. Ohio, 38%. And Tennessee, 31%. Here's what's really shocking. Look at this. Look at this number. 1949 and earlier. Like I said, 16% of the U.S. housing stock. In California, 14% of all the homes. In Florida, way different. Only 3.5%. The housing stock's not as old in Florida. New York, 37%. Ohio, 24%. And Tennessee, 9%. But think about this for a second. In New York, one of the largest markets on earth, right? For the houses. Largest economy on earth, 37% of all homes were built before 1949. And my state here in Ohio, 24% built before 1949. So what's my point? What are you trying to tell me there, housing nerd? The homes that are in the Silver Tsunami, if you look at the wave of houses that are coming in the Silver Tsunami, are old. The people are old. You'll be old one day. I'll be old one day. And houses are old. And they're not getting younger because we built most of the homes between like 1950 through 1979, really in the 70s or early 70s. But the 50s and 60s saw the explosion of inventory in most markets. And all that inventory may not cater to what people actually want. Now, I like older homes. Out of all the rental properties I own, the newest one is 1940. So, yeah, I like old homes. I think they're great. And quite frankly, that's what's available. So like this idea that, hey, these boomers are going to leave us these homes and we'll just be able to move right into them may not be exactly what people are thinking. And I don't hear anybody mentioning this. I think because they're looking at spreadsheets or articles or data and kind of making up the narrative as they go, they're not actually out there looking at the stock, like walking through the houses, doing the renovations, tearing out walls, dealing with what in the world is that plumbing going? What's going on with that plumbing? Oh, it's from 1920. That's what's going on with it. The homes that these boomers are leaving behind are like, they need everything. I mean, some of these houses, especially the vacant houses, that's the other part of this. Forget the boomer side of it. Think about the vacant home myth. Hey, you guys, we don't need more supply. We don't have a housing shortage. Okay. As long as you're willing to put in 100 to 150 into a home, new windows, roof, plumbing, electric, kitchen, bathroom, flooring, foundation, gutters, siding. I mean, that's the house, right? I mean, beyond the framing, that's like the actual house. That's what it is. So unless you're willing to put that type of work and take that type of risk on a property, a lot of this housing stock you're going to see is old, very, very old. And I'll show you what I mean right now. And then I will take some comments because I'm really curious what y'all have to say about this. I didn't even do a video for this. I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump on the live and take y'all through what I'm finding because I was shocked. So like in Columbus, I'm going to share Zillow with you. This is Zillow, obviously. And what I did was I looked at all the homes in Columbus, all the actual homes in the Columbus, Ohio area that are single family houses, not the Columbus, Ohio area, the city of Columbus, single family houses for sale. This is crazy. There were 597 total in the whole city for sale right now, single family homes. Of the 597, 410 were built before 1949. I'll say that again. 597 total available homes in Columbus. Of those, 410 of them were built before 1949. I mean, here's one. Here's a house, 95 grand. It's actually an auction. And look what it says, court-appointed receiver sale. This could have been a boomer. Could have been. Could have been a boomer that owned this property. Let's see if it's move-in ready. Let's see what you're up against if you want to buy a boomer home. Let's go. I mean, to me, this house is awesome. Like, this is the type of house I would like to buy. That's just how I am. I like older homes. It's got maybe some newer flooring in it, kind of. It looks like vinyl flooring maybe, but like it definitely needs some work. I mean, this flooring is older, though it could be really nice. The bathroom is not horrible. Is it move-in ready? Maybe. It depends on what you want to live in, right? The windows are semi-updated. I personally haven't seen this house up close, but that one's in Columbus. And then this one, I wanted to show you because this is actually I've actually been through this house. This is not in Columbus, but I'm guessing this was a boomer home. Could have been. I think it was it looked like it was an estate sale or an inheritance property. And it has the chance to be a great home. It's in a great area, actually in the town I live in, but I've walked through this thing. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I was actually with a buyer. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that this thing needs a lot of work. I mean, our estimate was way over six figures, like just $100K to get it to a level where you want to rent it. It's empty, by the way. So both of these are empty. So both of these homes that I'm showing you right now are vacant boomer homes. Well, I don't know if they're boomer. I can't say that. I suspect they are, but they're definitely vacant. So when someone tells you there's all these vacant homes out there, we don't need more homes. Did you know that in Ohio, since 2020, we have built a total of 91,000 homes, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. 91,000 new homes since 2020 in Ohio. And you can go to the Census Bureau and get that data for any state. But the idea that all these homes are going to crash the housing market, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself on that. You need to understand, and that's what I'm trying to show you, is data that you're not going to see from the talking heads. The Silver Tsunami headline sounds good. It sounds good. And in theory, it makes sense. If houses didn't age, it makes sense. But when you look at the inventory now, and it's market specific, like Arizona probably has many more new homes than older homes. We saw that in Florida, right? But they still have a lot of old homes too. But like in Ohio, New York, California, Tennessee, there are far more older homes than there are newer homes. And that is something that you are going to have to come to grips with if you're a younger home buyer and you're looking for a real opportunity. If you're just messing around and you're like, I just want the housing market to crash because I don't want people to be in houses and I want investors to be, doomed. Well, then none of this matters, right? It's just BS. But if you really want to find a home, if you really want to get into real estate investing, or you just want to find your first house, you may have to swing a hammer. You may have to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so the other part of the equation is about 200 to 400,000 homes a year are demolished because they're old. So you got to think what happens to one of these boomer homes. Let's pretend there's 1 million homes that flood the market in a year. A big percentage of those are going to be swooped up by investors, especially the newer homes. Like the newer move-in ready houses are what the big institutional investors want. That's their bread and butter. They don't want a fixer-upper from 1920. They want something like they can just rent immediately. That's a challenge that people will face in the future because investors will continue to buy newer homes. So you've got a portion of the 1 million units hitting the market that are newer that investors will grab. But then you're going to have a bunch of older homes that hit the market. And if 200 to 400,000 a year now are being demolished and you've got a bunch of vacant, abandoned homes, those may be demolished too. There are demolished homes that are happening all over the country. I see it. I see it on a corner there. Oh, that house is forgotten about. Oh, the foundation's bad. Somebody kept the house and didn't do any maintenance on it. No gutters on the roof, right? Water pours onto the foundation, cracks the foundation. The house starts to sink and shift. Oh, demolish it. So, we need the new stock. That's a big takeaway here today, I think. You need the new stock. To pretend that we don't need new inventory is very short-sighted. And it's not going to help the future generations. So all the homes in the US right now are owned by somebody. Somebody owns these properties. Somebody's on the deed. Somebody's on the title. There may be vacant properties, but they're owned by somebody. They're not available for sale. Well, some of them are, but not a lot of them. So as those homes come up for sale, that's your opportunity. The more a house stinks when you walk in it, the more opportunity there is. One of the first lessons I got in rentals and flipping, whatever you want to call it, I walked into a house and I was like, oh man, boy, that smells. The guy I was with said, that's the smell of money. Because most people will pass it up, especially as inventory builds. Most people will pass it up. And that's where you can make it, you can make a offer that makes sense for you. All right, let's check some comments here. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this. Oops, let me check this more quick. What's up, YouTube? I'll be inheriting a home in the future. What first-time home buyer has 3 million? I don't know. Most first-time home buyers don't have 3 million. At least not that I know of. What's up, McConaughey? Who's ready for the stock market crash? Right. Yep. You never know, right? Anything's possible. Look at commercial mortgage-backed security delinquencies, 3.5 to 7% year over year. Yeah, I mean, all that's possible, right? But I'm really talking about boomer homes today. I think people are just going through the motions right now and not thinking, okay. Some of those Columbus neighborhoods are rough. Yeah, they can be. Remember, this comment's perfect. This is a perfect comment for today. Like what Tony's saying, thanks for joining us, Tony, is that some of these neighborhoods are rough, like the ones I'm showing on the screen. They could be rough neighborhoods, or considered rough neighborhoods. But don't get it twisted. Like when they talk about the Silver Tsunami, they're not saying, hey, we're only counting the homes that anybody's going to want to buy on the very first day. Built in 2020, granite counters, new flooring, dare I say millennial gray, right? Those type of things. That's not what they're saying. They're saying, no, it's homes, period. And if you've never done it before, you really can't understand what the inventory really looks like. And so this goes along with why are we seeing more inventory, although it has dropped over the past month. We're only up like 10% year over year in the number of homes for sale. Why are we seeing more and more inventory, but home prices haven't really come down that far nationally? Because a lot of the homes that are out there are the ones I'm showing you. This one, right? This counts as one of the pieces of inventory. So does this house. This counts as one of the pieces of inventory. It needs $150K in work. You buy it for $219, you put $150K in it. And I can tell you, in the market I live in, $150K would make the house fantastic and would probably leave you with a nice chunk of equity with the after repair value. But make no mistake, it's not like these homes are ready to just run into and live in. Now, you could live in it, but I think a lot of buyers, at least ones I've worked with that are younger, don't want to swing a hammer. They don't want to do that. They don't look at it as an investment, as somebody pointed out, maybe. They're looking at it as a place to live, and they want something nice. And they want to buy something. They're expecting a home that's very nice at a low price because they are upset that other people have it and they don't. There are ways to do it right now. You don't have to wait for the Silver Tsunami. And by the way, the Silver Tsunami is already here. There are people passing away today that are leaving their homes like this to the market, and other people are buying them. An investor purchased this home, and an investor will continue, unless people jump on board now and buy, or unless they're willing to swing a hammer, investors are going to keep buying houses. The price will get low enough that investors will jump on, or a homeowner will jump on. But I'd rather see the younger buyers out there buying houses, creating equity and opportunity for them and their family versus an institutional investor doing it. $350,000 houses a year in the U.S. are lost to fires and natural disasters. Just looked it up because my mind wanders. Wow. Okay, 350 houses in the year are lost to fires and natural disasters. That's a good amount. Right. Kevin, thank you. 70% of inherited homes are sold for cash. That's true. You're right. This home was, I don't know if this home here on the screen was sold for cash or not. I don't know how it hasn't closed yet. It's in contract. But this is one of those houses probably, right? And if so, it's one of those Silver Tsunami homes that people are expecting will flood the market and solve everybody's housing market problems, right? Like a wave of, like a real estate nirvana will rain down upon them when all the Silver Tsunami comes. I had somebody on my channel actually say, until the boomers die off, they'll stop. Until the boomers die off, they'll never stop hoarding homes. Yikes. Yikes. I don't believe in waiting for someone else to die in order for you to have an opportunity. It's kind of strange, right? If you think about it. There are boomers today that would sell you their property, their second home, their vacant property. They would sell it to you today if you just found them and contacted them. That opportunity exists. But thanks, Kevin. You're right. 70%. That's what I read too. I've done a complete remodel on my rental for $200,000. Took me 2 years. I don't think most people have the patience, skill, time, or money to do it. Well, they're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to figure it out. I mean, that's a great point, YouTube. Like, what happens when all these people realize, or all these homes hit the market and they all need 100,000 in work? What happens to those homes at that point? Like, and then, and if somebody's not willing to swing a hammer and they don't have the resources to renovate it, and they don't have the patience, like you said, the patience is the big one. What happens? What happens to those properties? Probably bulldozed, right? It's almost like it's almost inventory that doesn't count in a way. And I think we're seeing a lot of that right now. Like, people are like, oh, the silver tsunami's coming. It's here. I mean, look at the inventory in your local market and look at what's been sitting on the market a long time. It's most of it, they're older homes that are in, maybe in flood zones or something, or next to railroad tracks. People aren't buying them because they require a lot of patience, skill, as YouTube pointed out, and money. Without that, you're not going to renovate it. It's not going to be livable. I mean, in another 10 years, think about the stock in the U.S. I mean, if I go back to this chart, look at this stock in the U.S. I mean, 33% built before 1979 and 16% built before 1949. In another 10 years, it's just 10 years older, the inventory. That house that we're looking at here, this house will be another 10 years old. This was built in 1912. Look at this. This is not uncommon for Ohio, and it's not uncommon for a lot of other states, obviously. I mean, this house is already 113 years old. Is that right? Yeah, 113 years old right now. Another 10 years, be 123 years old. I mean, just if you think about that for a second, that's an old home. And I can tell you firsthand experience that buying these properties, an old house, requires a ton of capital and a ton of capital reserves, like, because you don't know what's going to break, right? Stuff's old. So like, you have to get the wiring updated, the plumbing updated. Those are given. The roof could be slate. If that slate roof finally gives in, or you're like, you know what, I'm tired of spending the money on a slate roof because slate roofs are expensive to fix. And that's a dying art. There aren't a lot of slate companies around anymore. As that stuff deteriorates and you have to upgrade it, you're putting a new roof on a house, you're putting new plumbing in, new electric. The counter or the kitchen and the bathroom may function okay. You just want to update the style maybe. The foundations are probably the best part of these homes. I mean, these foundations are built out of massive blocks, like Roosevelt stones, right? Like stones like this, like huge stones. You can't even see it, like huge stones. And they'll last seemingly forever, along with the slate roof. But a lot of the other things are going to need addressed. Windows, certainly gutters, a lot of asbestos siding out there from like the 30s, 40s, 50s. And again, the people that are talking about, I just want you to be fooled. I'm just trying to talk some like reality into the situation of the narrative that, hey, the next 20 years we're doomed in the housing market because all these houses are going to flood the market and there'll be, there'll be houses for everybody. You won't even have to You don't even have to hunt for a house. There'll be these move-in ready gems on every corner at deep discounts. Deep discounts, right? Maybe so. Maybe that'll happen. But we're not building that many houses, really. Maybe it's just me. But look at this. 2.9% of all houses in the US were built after 2020. Just 2.9%. Again, in Ohio, it's 1.7%. I mean, if I look at the stock in Ohio, look at this. 38% of all houses built between 1950 and 1979, 24% before 1949. Adding those up, what's that, 66, right? No, 62? Yeah, 62%. That's startling. 62% of all the houses in the state of Ohio. There's like 5 million homes, right? 5.3 million homes in Ohio. 62% of all those houses were built before 1979. And just a sliver, 1.7%, built after 2020. What about Tennessee? They have a little better, right? They got 9% built before 1949, 31% built between 1950 and 1979. I'll link this chart in the description after the live, by the way. So they're a little better, but their housing stock's old as well. Only 4.4% of homes in Tennessee built after 2020. And you're going to tell me we don't need more new homes? We have too many new homes. I mean, the next time you see a new home site or a development and you shake your head and go, I can't believe they're still building homes. You need to go back and look at the stock that was built in the 50s and 60s. Massive amounts of inventory. The difference, though, is that a lot of the homes built in the 50s and 60s were small. 800 square foot, 1,000 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bed, 1-bath homes. Not 2-bathroom, not 3-bathroom, not 2,500 square feet. Most of them built in the 50s and 60s were smaller type, like what do they call them? Matchbox homes, right? Homes that were like basically little squares on slabs, a lot of them. There's a ton of them in Columbus. I've flipped some of them. They're like the easiest flip on earth. I used to have some rentals in Columbus that were little tiny matchbox homes. And they needed complete renovations. And we did it ourselves. Like myself, my wife, 2 other people did the entire rehab. And it wasn't that difficult. I wish builders would build those. So, like, I'm in a minute here, I'll talk about some solutions after I take a look at comments again. And then I'm going to talk about some solutions because I have some ideas, I'm sure you do too, as to how we can take advantage of the Silver Tsunami to help younger generations instead of just like sit around waiting for the inventory to hit so that we can be disappointed again. And that's what all this is leading to. Everybody gets that, right? That like this is leading to further disappointment of what, Gen Alpha and Gen Z. Does anything really ever work out the way analysts think it will? No, not normally. That's a rhetorical question. Build too many apartments. When illegals leave, they'll be sitting empty. Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of people think that, Carolyn. Thanks for joining us, by the way. I appreciate it. That's probably another topic for another day. So let's talk about a solution. One of the things that, and I'll bring this comment up again. I think it really talks about it, right? I've done a complete remodel on my rental for $200K. Took me 2 years. I don't think most people have the patience, skill, time, or money to do it. I can't help somebody with the patience or the time. But you could help somebody with the skill and the money, being that there has to be an opportunity or a way for the average homeowner or even a new homeowner to have access to funds that are it's an easy access to funds and contractors that can help them take a house like this, right? Like this house here, take this house, pretend it, this is in contract now, pretend it's sold to a Gen Z buyer. The Gen Z couple's like, we'd love to buy this house, but we don't have the 100,000 in cash, nor do we have the skills to put new siding on. It's wood siding. Yeah, wood siding. You're going to face that in these boomers, Silver Tsunami homes, wood siding. It's got single pane windows from the 1920s or 1930s. You have to renovate all that. So if the millennial home buyer doesn't have that opportunity because they don't have that money and they skip this over and then go back and sulk because they can't find a house, instead of that, there has to be a way to give the younger home buyers money, easy access to money in order to do the renovations needed to buy a house like this and bring it up to speed. I'm not talking about putting in granite counters. I'm not talking about putting in marble floors. I'm talking about putting in like not even having to put in counters. Like the counters in this house were livable. I'm talking about making sure the house, the foundation's dialed in, the roof doesn't leak, the windows are insulated, it's not dangerous to live there. That type of stuff. The peeling paint is gone. The problem is those loan programs right now by the government, by FHA anyway, are very hard to execute a lot of times. Most mortgage officers and loan officers that I talk to don't want anything to do with it. They don't want anything to do with it. They're like, nah, I don't want to mess with that 203K loan. That's what it's called right now. So there are programs in place now for people to take advantage of. They're not easy to use. This is an opportunity, I think, for the government, I guess, to give not only home buyers, but also small investors the opportunity to take these houses, turn them into good properties that can be rented or sold. But instead, we just keep building more homes, which is fine. We do need more new homes, but there are a lot of old homes that could just use a facelift, some updates, and life's good. And then you've got an extra house on the market instead of a vacant home, right? Anyway, I think there's ways to solve that. But if fewer and fewer people are going into trades, right? Like electricians and HVAC guys and roofers. And I mean, you try to find a roofer or a good electrician right now, it's still just as hard as it was during COVID. Very difficult. There's not enough people doing that trade, in my opinion. So those skills are hard to find. It's not going to get any easier. Because I don't think it is. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this. And I'm going to do more research on this boomer Silver Tsunami thing, the age of the houses. If you're someone who listens to different folks out there on YouTube or in the media, just remember these charts, remember these graphs, and how old the housing stock is. That's all I encourage you to do. It's not as cut and dry as some make it seem, right? It's just not. Let me look at this. Hang on one second. Let me go back to this comment. 350,000 houses a year in the U.S. are lost to fires and natural disasters. Just looked it up. Okay. So the stat I read was between 200 and 400,000 houses are bulldozed every year. And I think as that stock gets older, stuntfish, we're going to see more and more bulldozed homes. See more and more of that. So is it just me? Am I nuts that we need more new homes? That we need the builders to actually keep building? Because right now they've actually dropped their construction, right? They've slowed down. That's the other part of this. I mean, look at this. This is the Fred chart of housing units started. And look, like, well, you can see it. Look at this right here. I don't have to even point that much. Like we were building homes like crazy. Let me look it up for standby. Yeah. Look at this. This is the privately owned housing units, single family units only. The housing starts. How many homes are actually started for new construction, right? And look at this only goes back to 1959. But in 1959, there were 1.4 million homes started in 1959. And then we stayed like above a million for a while. It dropped and then shot up into the early 70s, 1.3 million, then dropped, but then it was up 1.5 million. And I think this period of time, right after the GFC, really did us in. I mean, at one point there were 1.8, is that the peak? 1.8 million homes started. Single family homes. These aren't apartments. These are just single family houses. 1.8 million, right? That was like the peak. And then that went down all the way down to 358,000. Not that many at all. No, not that many. Not when Stuntfish pointed out that 350,000 houses a year are demolished or lost from fire or natural disasters. And you're only building 358,000 in 1 year. That's not good. So we lagged behind, in my opinion anyway. We lagged behind for a while, and now we started to catch up. And a lot of people were like, man, it went through the roof during COVID. Did it? You sure about that? You sure about that? 1.2 million, 1.1 million. Now look what happened. Down to, in 2023, down to 800,000. And now it's down, where is it now? 900,000, under a million. I mean, if you just take a look back at the chart, you can see this period of time right now that we're in from 2010, basically, through right now, not near the construction we had through the history of time. So when someone goes, hey, we built so many homes, we've overbuilt. And it kills me, the people that they say, hey, I got on the road and I went to these cities and I saw the new construction. It's just very short-sighted. It's very short-sighted because when you're standing there, it's like when you're a little kid, right? When you're a little kid, everything looks big. Everything's bigger. Like your house you grew up in, probably you remember being much bigger than it was. The school you went to. I remember the first time I was near a high school football player when I was like in the 5th grade. And I was like, man, that guy's huge. Then you get to high school and you're like, oh, I guess they're not so big. Everything's bigger when you're up close. So I think people get fooled and lulled into a false sense of doom that, man, we have so many new houses out there we can't see straight. There's a lot of this shadow inventory. There's this unreported hidden inventory that builders are hoarding. But the facts are clear. We're just not starting that many homes out there. We're just not. As we used to. And if you had this type of flow of inventory through decades, especially look at this, leading up to the year 2000. I'm sorry, the year leading up to the GFC, right? You had a lot of housing stock created, but then you turned off the faucet. Builders are doing that again because the demand has been low, although it's picking up now because of interest rates, but it has been low. Builders are turning the knob off. I mean, lumber's at an all-time low with supply right now. Builders are not building. That's going to crush us later on, in my opinion. You're not going to have as many new homes. You still got all the old stock, though. We have to figure out a way to build more houses. In my opinion, smaller houses, And they are getting smaller per square foot, or I'm sorry, the square footage on houses is getting smaller, but we still need to build those entry-level homes. The question is, will millennials actually want those homes? Will Gen Z and Gen Alpha want a small home? I've had people tell me they don't. I've shown houses to millennials and Gen Z buyers that go, man, that house, no, I don't want a 1,200 square foot house. We need at least 2 bathrooms. Okay, well, you're going to pay the price then, because there are plenty of 1-bathroom houses out there that you could renovate and have tons of equity in. That's where the really opportunity is. If I'm a Gen Z millennial buyer, I'm excited right now. I'm like, man, there is an opportunity today to find a house from a boomer, put my stamp on it, and create something that would be impossible without putting the sweat equity in. Again, tell me if I'm nuts. KZ, what's up? Detroit is blocks and locks and blocks of open land, currently really only developing close to downtown and midtown. They really could do it in one block at a time and put in some of those container homes. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen those container homes, seen the 3D printed homes, but the government or the builders just don't have an incentive to build smaller homes right now because it costs so much for the infrastructure, the taxes, the regulation. I know Trump's idea of putting like homes on federal land. It sounds great in theory, but most of the federal land is in like Alaska, Nevada, California, Arizona, Utah, right? New Mexico, out west. And look at the map of federal land. Most of it's not in areas like in the East Coast or in the Midwest. So I'm not sure like the federal land thing is a good idea. But that's not what you were saying. I'm just kind of rambling. But I get it. Yeah. I mean, there's probably a lot of old homes in Detroit. I mean, I know there are, right? But they're only developing close to midtown, huh? Downtown. They really could do it one block at a time. Yeah. Maybe like those old factories that have been torn down. I don't know if you can build anything on those, though. They're probably brownfields, right? Dave and Tess in the Pacific Northwest. Mandatory classes in school of wood shop, cooking, metal shop, etc. Take that away from this generation and lose connection to work with hands. No wonder they don't know or have a desire to do the work. Kaboom. I agree 1,000%. 1,000%. How many people have complained that you need to teach basic economics in school? Not like necessarily like the basics of economics, although that's important, but like what debt's good, what debt's bad, right? So many people are taught that debt is bad. All debt's bad. Unfortunately, they're not taught that good debt is good. There is good debt if it's used right. That's how the economy expands, last time I checked. And to Dave and Tess in the Pacific Northwest point, yeah, working with your hands is super important. No doubt. Like, maybe it's just me, and I know there are kids out there that do this, but the younger generation has access to things that make your head spin with opportunity. Like, and I guess that's probably the part about the boomer argument that maybe annoys me a little, is that the younger generations have opportunities that the older generations never had. Never had. I mean, the opportunity to make money doing things that, like, I won't make much, but I'll make money from this live. Not a ton, but I will. If it was on a large scale, you could make a lot more money. And so younger generations have that opportunity to maybe combine some hands-on work with some new age know-how and technology and hit a home run. Like, look at the electric scooters and the electric bikes that are out now. If my buddies and I had access to that back in the day, we would have created vehicles that went faster than anything you could comprehend, probably hurt ourselves, probably wreck the scooters, no doubt, damage them. But there's really cool stuff out there now. So if you can combine the hands-on work with the new technology, you could be miles ahead. Miles ahead. But I agree, Dave and Tess. I agree. You don't want to lose that hands-on work because that's what's coming. That is what's coming. Unless maybe preferences change. Maybe at the end of the day, all the buyers in the future won't want a house that is real. Maybe they want like a container house that's just dropped off. Oh, there you go. Plug it in. You're good to go. Maybe they don't want a yard. Maybe they don't want to like let the dogs out and let them run around. I don't know. If they don't want that, hey, the old houses won't matter and they'll be scrambling to buy their container homes. I mean, this Fred chart that I put up really scares me because builders have dialed back their building versus before the GFC. I mean, it's easy to see what happened during the GFC, right? Right, with how many homes they were building, it just went up, 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 up. Now it's going down, 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 down. I mean, here was our spike. Our spike. I'll put that in quotation marks. Here's our spike. How many of these new homes are like under 1,500 square feet that are affordable for the average person to buy? Not many. A lot of luxury homes. So they built all these new homes going up to this point here and then dialed it off because they didn't want this to happen again. They didn't want this to go up. So they were forced to basically shut down, not build anything at all, fire everybody, and have the inventory fall through the bottom of the bottom of the basement. This could be what has caused the housing shortage that we do have. I mean, no, people don't point to that very much. They're like, they don't want to believe it for some reason. I don't know why. But if you all of a sudden turn off the faucet, for years, you're just underperforming with building. I mean, look at this. Look how long we went before we actually caught up to even like normal levels. Like we're still not there. That's what's nuts. I don't know what the average is per year going all the way back as far as this chart goes. I could figure it out, but I don't know. Does this go further? Let me look. Yeah, this is as far as it goes. But I don't know what the average number of homes people are building every year, but we're not there. I mean, you look at the chart and just take a look back. If you don't be fooled, if you look at a chart that's total housing units, including apartments, this won't look the same at all because it's taking into account how many units are in an apartment building. But if you look at single family houses, that's what everybody's concerned about. It's dismal. The future is dismal for the housing stock. Unless something changes, and changes fast. Now, don't get me wrong, there are boomers out there that own newer homes. Like they've sold their 1950 home and then they bought a 2025 home. That does happen, obviously. I'm not saying it's across the board. But I think there's a big enough chunk of older stock that you have to consider that in the thesis, I'll say. I mean, I don't know if really you can come to a better example than this. I mean, this home that I was showing you before in Columbus is an auction, right? It's an auction property. It's one of those foreclosures, right? Part of that foreclosure wave. See, I think back during the GFC, right, when it all kind of hit the fan, I think a lot of the houses out there were newer homes because we had such an explosion of newer properties that were built right before the GFC. A lot of people bought those newer homes, maybe 2, maybe 3, and they built them all on adjustable rate mortgages or bought them on adjustable rate mortgages. And then the rug got pulled out from underneath them. They lost their job, couldn't afford the new home. It hit the market as a foreclosure. Well, we've done so poorly with new builds over the last decade, basically the last decade since the GFC, that most of the homes now that I think going into foreclosure, a lot of them will be homes like this, older properties. 1912. 1912. Let me wrap up here with a couple more comments. See if anybody has anything. TJ, what's up? Kids still take shop classes. You're making things up. Some do. Some do. Some don't. Right. Completely out of touch. I don't know. Are they? I mean, you'll be a boomer someday. Not really, but you'll be older someday. See, now you're just monkeying around. Boomers had far more opportunities. Did they? They did? Or they're just different opportunities? I interviewed a guy on my channel Saturday. I did an interview on Saturday. It won't be posted for a few weeks. And just a normal guy, normal homeowner up in Cleveland, the Cleveland area. And he just bought a house. And the interview was about boomers and versus millennials, kind of, and like the contrasting generations. What he pointed out, he actually had a debate with his father that he shared with me. And it was interesting to listen to his perspective and then hear what his father's perspective was. One of the things that boomers had to deal with that a lot of millennials and Gen Z, I don't think, are dealing with is a single earner household. I think a lot of boomers were in the position where it was the guy, right? The male going out and earning a living, and all the onus on earning a living fell on that male, on that one person. And I think a lot of millennials now, even Gen X, you've got two earner households. So it's kind of shared a little bit more. So that could be a reason why maybe a little bit more challenging for boomers. Yeah. So I'm not sure that they have far more opportunities. And I think that thinking right there is the problem. I think that is. I just think they're different opportunities, but I don't think there are more. Free college. I don't know. Maybe that happened. I don't know boomers. I don't know a boomer that got free college. In fact, most of the successful boomers I know were like self-made. Like they kind of cut their own path. Booming economy. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to go down that road. You've got a lot of comments here. They supported a family. Right. They support a family with one income. I agree. Do I think boomers had it hard? I think every generation has its challenges. Gen X. What up, Gen X? And kids are millennial. Gen X here, and kids are millennial. We had to take shop. My kids had an option, not required. There's a difference. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I'm Gen X as well. And nobody ever talks about us. We're like skipped, right? Which is fine. So TJ, you asked, do I think you asked, do you think boomers had it hard? I think every generation has its challenges. Gen X's challenges were just skipped over in conversation. I'm being facetious, but seriously. But it's yeah, I think having skills to pay the bills, right? To having skills with your hands is super valuable. It is. But I think the attitude that the boomer generation had it much tougher. Had it easier. And kids nowadays have it tougher and more challenges. I think that's I just think it's short-sighted because every generation has their issues. I think they all do. And generations in the future will have their challenges. Don't you think in the future, generations will say the same thing? Like, man, those millennials, those Gen Alphas, they have it easy. As you get older, you get more cantankerous. You get more experience in the world. You become more jaded. I'm not sure you can get more jaded than millennials and Gen Z right now, but who knows? Howdy from Houston. What up? I'm late. That's all right, Pirate Justin. Michaela, how are you doing? Struggling with frustration and bitterness with the boomer generation is definitely real. The greed is wild. Yeah, or it could be the silent generation too, right? As we've experienced, you and I. So I understand. The frustration is real. I get it. But I think there's opportunities that exist for every generation. I just do. Maybe I'm overly optimistic and I have too much reckless enthusiasm, right? Some people say that. Do you think, and by the way, it's good to see you, Michaela. I hope you're doing pretty well. Do you think someone could make money building a new home on vacant land? I wonder what percentage of homes built before the 90s were built by small construction contractors. That's a great question, Zane. Actually, I know so. I may do an interview with someone here locally that it's a small investor, like just him, far as I know, in his company. He hires out the work, but he finds little tiny lots in Newark, near me, in central Ohio, finds little tiny city lots, and he builds brand new construction houses on them. They're small houses that are affordable. And he says he does pretty well. So he'll find a lot in the city that's kind of like forgotten about, find out who the owner is, make him an offer, buy the lot, and then put up a new house. That type of work is awesome. I think that could really help the housing market. But I don't know what percentage were built before 90s were built by small construction contractors. I mean, I don't hear of many people building their own home nowadays, to your point. I'm sure it happens. In fact, I know it happens, but it's not, I don't think it's very prevalent. Single earner households provide better opportunities for child rearing, hence why the fertility crisis is happening. That's a great point, Michaela. You're right. Yep, definitely. Yeah, there's a trade-off there, right? With two people working, there's definitely a trade-off. I think there are older folks that have a lot of houses that are buying more houses. I know some that they may be older than boomers. They continue to buy homes, and they're buying fixer-uppers as we speak today. And doesn't seem like they have any plan on stopping. But there are also, and to be fair, they've worked their entire life and took a lot of risks to get where they are, to get those homes, right? So that does happen. But the majority of boomers I personally know, I do know a lot of investors that are boomers, but the majority of just the boomers I know only have one house. And they didn't have an easy life. I mean, they had challenges that I don't think we will experience, or younger generations have experienced. But I think there's a lot of challenges that younger people experience and have experienced that the boomers don't have to worry about, or Gen X. I mean, COVID was a problem for everybody, but I think in particular, younger people right now, I can see it in my kid's generation in their early teens, when he was in like the second grade is when COVID happened, right? Second, third grade. And it's definitely changed his generation, how they interact and stuff. So I think that's a kind of it'll be a problem that they'll have to face for a long time. Millennials face that issue with COVID, and so did Gen X and everybody. But I think the younger generation really suffered from it. My theory would be that localized builders like your friend in Newark could drive up housing inventory. Yeah, I think so. They just need I agree, Zane. They just need the incentive to do it, right? They need the incentive. There has to be something for them other than just high taxes and draconian laws on zoning, right? Like I own a duplex in Zanesville, Ohio. And then there's an empty lot I own between a duplex, and then I own a triplex. So I a triplex, empty lot, duplex. I've sunk tons of money into the duplex and triplex, but that empty lot used to be a house that's been demolished. I've checked with the city and said, hey, I want to build another duplex there. No, you can't do that. Why not? Well, it's historic area. But there's a duplex there already next door and a triplex. Yeah, but that was done like years ago. And it didn't used to be a triplex, and it didn't used to be a duplex. They were single family houses, but somebody turned them into those. And I guess the city just said, fine, just go ahead and keep those. But they won't let me build a brand new structure there to improve the neighborhood, provide affordable living for somebody, because I'm not charging insane rents. And that's a huge problem, right? To Zane's point, like people building little tiny or, tiny units anyway, like a triplex where each unit's 700 square feet, 600 square feet isn't big, but it could provide great housing inventory. Even building a single family house there could work. But I got to have incentive to do it. I can't just pull the trigger. It doesn't math at all. Like I've looked at it, just doing a single family house, not even close. I could do it if I charged $3,500 a month, or if I did it as a flip, it could possibly make sense. But if I want to add to the inventory for rentals, it doesn't make sense. Probably wouldn't even work as a flip in that area. It could work though in Newark, which obviously it is. I agree. Well, you guys have great ideas today. R&R, what's up? Single family homes have become a business for big players to sweep the markets. Funny how the current admin is doing everything but what's actually needed to resolve the housing affordability crisis. Man, I can't believe you went there. Do you thank you, R&R, for the comment. And I agree with you 1,000%. The whole talk on the housing market right now by the administration is all about lower interest rates. Like they want lower rates. That's their idea of more affordability, lower rates. They haven't really talked about lowering home prices at all. Now they have talked about building homes, but their idea on the federal land part is odd. It's odd to me. Very odd. But instead of monkeying around with all that stuff, if they left interest rates alone and didn't meddle in that, and then gave investors, even home buyers, like average everyday home buyers out there, money or an opportunity to renovate something that they find where they like the location, they like the school system, but man, I don't have the $100,000 to renovate that house. Boom. Give them opportunity to do that. And you got a first-time home buyer finding the house, finding their dream house. But they're not gonna, that's probably too far off. It's probably too squishy for them to run on, right? And promote their agenda on. They want something that is more direct and they can, cheerlead. Lower interest rates, it's going to help everybody out there. Is it? I don't know that it will. I agree with you, man. It's investors haven't gone anywhere in the market. 19% of all transactions now are investors. Now, investor purchases have fallen because the total number of home sales has fallen. But investors are still buying 19% of all houses. In Cleveland, it's like 27%. Invitation Homes, that's part owned by BlackRock, is a net buyer this year, not a net seller, net buyer. They've bought more homes than they've sold. Shoot, they acquired 3,000 homes from Starwood. 3,000 single-family homes from Starwood, which was a private equity company. What was that guy's name? Barry Sternlack, I think his name was. He had to liquidate a bunch of his holdings because he needed the cash when interest rates went up. Well, he liquidated them, Invitation Homes bottom. Invitation Homes bottom. Just swooped them up 3,000. You can go and look at the data. So investors will continue to buy properties, and they want newer homes because they're new, right? So you don't have to worry about the roof for a while, seemingly, and you don't have to worry about windows or anything like that. It's like, there's no gremlins well, shouldn't be gremlins, as many gremlins as you would have in a 1920 house. So the newer homes are going to continue to get swooped up. What's up, Michaela? Oh, MJ, talking about Michaela. I agree with this comment too. Yeah. Agreed, 100%. Michaela's right. Absolutely. 90% of homes here in my small town of Pacific Northwest are built by small construction homes. Cool. My home was built in the 90s. It's one of those, my builder built 4 homes at the time and would live in one of them and move on. Awesome. I'm curious what area of the Pacific Northwest you live in. I used to live up there. I used to live in Tacoma. But I know that market well. Insurance and estates. Younger Americans simply can't afford what boomers need to sell for, creating an inevitable price correction when demographic really hits. Yeah, I mean, the challenge is going to be as the prices come down. Well, first off, as prices come down with newer construction, somebody will step in and buy it. It'll be either a homeowner or an investor, right? There'll be a point at which the investor looks at it, mom and pop investors too, and institutional will look at it and go, that makes sense. I just heard from somebody, a mom and pop investor who bought three D.R. Horton, no, I'm sorry, 3 Lennar homes. I showed that one of my video I just posted, the Lennar marketplace where they're selling direct to investors out there. And I saw a thread on in a investing group I'm part of that talked about how he went out and bought 3 Lennar homes, 3 brand new homes to rent because the deal made sense. He got it to the point that it made sense. So my biggest fear is that buyers sit on their hands and they continue to sit on their hands. They're not active, or they're not willing to do something different, like find an off-market deal, swing a hammer, take an older home and turn it into something great. And then investors come in and swoop up the inventory. That's my fear. Maybe it's unfounded, but it doesn't look like investors are still buying. Hey, Ranger, what's up? YouTube, what's happening? I have a feeling these home crash doomers are going to be surprised how low these rates are going to go. Demand will come back. Man, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong just because we don't need lower rates. Even as an investor, I'm saying that. And I can tell you higher rates have dampened my spirits more than one time over the past few years. Especially when you want to refinance properties, right? I'm like looking at it going, oof, that doesn't make any sense right now. So I want lower rates in a way, but in all practicality, looking at the long-term health of the housing market, I know that lower rates aren't going to help. They're not. They're just going to kick the can further down the road, which is what the administration, quite frankly, wants. They don't care. They're just, they want what's best for their cronies and around them. I don't care who's in office. They want what's best for the group around them, and they're human. They're greedy. That makes sense. They want lower rates so they can refi, buy more assets, or everybody else sits on the sidelines and waits. So I hope you're wrong, YouTube. I hope you're wrong. You check the mail? What mail? My email or my snail mail? Did you put something in my mail? I don't know where that is. Fidalgo Island. I never heard of that. Sounds nice. Just the name. And Scott, quit blaming boomers. We sacrifice to get a home and work 2 jobs. We don't control the economy. We can't even move because we're not stupid enough to pay the overpriced inflated houses. That's a great point, and I think a lot of boomers are facing the same thing that millennials are facing. I do. I think a lot of them are thank you for saying that, Ann. A lot of them are facing the similar problem. There'll probably be more similarities than differences when it comes to how they're struggling day to day. You know, I mean, think for a second about paying off your house. What if you paid off your house as a millennial? You paid it off. You're like, done, paid it off. But then all of a sudden, you're on a fixed income and your taxes go up, your property taxes. And the county is knocking at the door saying, if you don't pay these property taxes, Jason, we're going to kick you out and foreclose on your property tomorrow. And so they're feeling like locked out, forgotten about, hamstrung. I think just like the younger generation's feeling. So it could be more similarities than differences. Let's go back to this comment here. Younger Americans simply can't afford what boomers need to sell for. That's why you got to make an offer underneath what they're selling for and find an opportunity where they're willing to play ball. They're out there. They are out there. You just got to look and be willing to make a lot of offers and be patient. I had somebody one time tell me it's not going to be a burning bush, Jason. You're not going to walk by a home and go, there's my burning bush. I'm going to go after it. It's more like, poke around the edges, you know. Oh, there's an opportunity. Great. Hey, do you remember me? I'm Ranger, the thumbnail designer. Man, they should put your name next to the definition of persistency. Or persistence, I guess. Ranger. That's funny. Yeah, I'll get you back, man, on the email. Thanks. That's the type of Ranger just taught us a lesson. That's exactly the type of attitude you have to have if you want to really find an opportunity. Like, hey, I'm going to go out off market, look at a house or I drive by a house that looks like, man, it's abandoned. I wonder if a boomer owns that. I'm going to send them a letter and ask them if they want to sell. Not all boomers are evil. They may say yes. What are you thinking? Well, I can talk to them directly now. Sometimes you don't even need a realtor to do this, oftentimes. No realtor involved. Operate in a free market. And then when they don't answer, send them another letter. I don't know. Find them on Facebook. Send them a note. Hey, I'm looking for a house. Like, I really like this neighborhood. I'm not an investor. I'm somebody who's going to move into your house. I'm not saying you would say this. I'm not going to lie to somebody and tell them I'm not an investor. But if you aren't an investor, then you can say, hey, I'm not an investor. I'm not from California. I'm from Ohio. I know your neighborhood. I want to live in that neighborhood. Do you have are you thinking about selling your house at all? Because I'd like to talk to you about it if you are. Go away. All right, I'll find somebody else. And go to the next one. Just sales. That's all it is. When our house is going to be $100 per square foot again? I don't know, man. I don't know. Those days are long gone. Even around here in Ohio, those days are gone. Like, it wasn't very long ago when they were like that, but I don't know if they'll ever be that cheap again. And if they are, they're probably houses that are destroyed, right? Like this one. I don't know if they're ever going to be like that again. Okay, wow, I learned a lot. You guys gave me some stuff to think about. I hope you learned something. I hope this gave you like a different way to look at this silver tsunami and the vacant housing thing. It's not all cut and dry. I hope you've seen that. And I'll link the graphs that I created. I'll link those along with the Fred economic data if you want in the description when I end this. And I'm going to have more on the boomers and the silver tsunami this week. I'm going to do a couple more videos on it because I have more goodies to share. All right. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for the participation. I always learn. I hope you did. I'm the housing nerd, and I'm out. OUT out. Have a good day.